Joining us now, our friend coming to us from the war-ravaged Portland. I think he's in Portland. Thom Hartmann, you know him from this very channel, New York Times best-selling author. He's got a great Substack that I read every day, hartmanreport.com. Hello, Tom. How are you? Nice to see you.
Hey, Dean, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to dodge shrapnel to get here. So
Yeah, I would imagine like you were behind enemy lines over
it
time
is
over there. By
it
the
is
way,
tough.
so what do you think? There's so many questions I have for you about topics we were covering. I opened the show talking about the ICE raid here in New York because I live in New York. I am the child of an immigrant. My fiance is an immigrant. And to see military vehicle in New York streets with people with not a U.S. flag on on that side, but HSI for Homeland Security, people masked carrying assault weapons in a group. It looked like Fallujah or something, but it's here. It's in New York, and seeing so much footage of it here in New York, it was especially jarring. And it wasn't just about the ICE facility. They were walking around the streets. They were on Canal Street. They were walking around on the way to the ICE facility. This dozens of armed men in tactical gear.
Yeah, I understand they were attacking people in Chinatown. Did I catch
They
that right?
on Canal Street. They were tackling people. They were looking for black migrants, any African migrants are a big thing because MAGA influencers had been posting videos tagging DHS and ICE saying, look at these illegals here and all that kind of stuff because they're
Right.
black immigrants. You know, they only like white South Africans, not black Africans. We know
Right.
that. So that started over the last few days, and that led to this where they attack people, they tackle them, and then organic protests in response. And it reminds me of Portland, although New York is a little bit more angry. I have to be honest. I
Yeah.
think Portland a little nicer about it. What are
Yeah,
your
I get
concerns
it.
about this? Where are we going?
Yeah, yeah, this is not America. This is not the America that we at least idealize. And I would say, it's not the America that even Dwight Eisenhower or Richard Nixon would recognize. Um, it's This is something altogether new. This is something altogether different. This is Donald Trump trying to build a police state. He's following Hitler's model of Hitler had this. It was called a protection squad, the Schutzstaffel, the SS. Schutzstaffel is German for protection squad, and they were originally like the Secret Service. They were there to protect the Führer, and it was his secret police, and they grew to be like the major police presence in the entire country and ran the concentration camps and all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what he's doing right now with ICE. He's got a police agency that's loyal exclusively to him, that doesn't honor the law, that ignores judges, it's just completely out of control. And I hate making Nazi analogies, but I can't find another. There's no parallel in American history, outside of the Old South and the slave patrols. I mean, that's about the closest you can get to it.
Right. And look, we hope the courts are going to protect us from some of this. And the trial judges have been pretty good. But look what happened where you are in Portland. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, two Trump judges ruled that Donald Trump can put troops there. Now, it's a limited number on the ruling for 60 days because they said that's all Trump wanted. If he wants more, they will give it to him, even though there's no evidence of a rebellion or insurrection or that the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. That's what the federal statute says. Those are the predicates to allow a president. They're saying essentially that the law doesn't matter because the trial judge, and I went through the opinion on the show, gave incidences of where the Trump lawyers were saying, well, we need to have National Guard there. And it was minor things that the local police can handle. So there's no factual basis in our law for Trump to do this. And the Court of Appeals, because the two judges are Trump judges, are fine with ushering in fascism. And people have to be aware that's what's going on here. This is having a military in the streets of America when it's not based on law. You're saying you're allowing a president to be above the law and to use troops whimsically for his own political gain. That so greatly concerns me as we head into the midterm.
I think this is starting to hurt him. I think it's turning people against him. I mean, keep in mind the Republican Party is the party that for the last 50 years or so has been waving "Don't tread on me" flags and warning about jackbooted thugs. And guess what? The jackbooted thugs are here and they're treading on us. And obviously, the racists and the homophobes and the open Nazis are cheering these guys on, because they just always believed that they would never be touched, and perhaps that's the case. I mean, Nazis were Nazis right up until the end of World War II, in Germany, but I think a lot of Republican politicians are starting to get very uncomfortable with this. Some of your Republican commentators are starting to get. The Los Angeles Times just had an article about how Andrew Schultz, I think he's one of the big right-wing podcasters, and Tucker Carlson and half a dozen others, quote, smell blood in the water was the phrase the LA Times, and that's owned by a Trump humping billionaire, that newspaper. um,
Right.
I don't know how much longer he can continue this. I mean, he's got an economy that is exploding in his face. His tariffs are driving up inflation. His immigration policies are causing food to rot in the fields, which is exploding food prices. You got the cost of cars, through the roof. Housing is unaffordable. Durable goods, things that, the holiday season is coming, and his tariffs on China and whatnot. I mean, I think he's freaking out about it. I think that's why he's going to China in a couple of weeks to try to cut a deal, a face-saving deal where he can cut the tariffs so that people will be able to buy toys for Christmas, it's just because this stuff is, the deal this corrupt deal that he made with this racist, misogynistic, homophobic Nazi base was, I'll hate the people you hate, I'll hurt the people you hate, I will reward you. I will bring back prosperity to America. I'll get you that job that you think that black or brown person took away from you, or that woman took away from you. And I'll make the economy work again. And he's not making the economy work again. He's making the economy worse. Yes, he's beating up the people that they hate, but even that is starting to lose support among his MAGA base, because they're seeing, this ham-fisted way that he's doing it is just ruining the economy.
Yeah, to me, I'm not sure when those articles say people are peeling away from Trump or not, how significant the numbers are. But I think that if Trumpers were to be affected financially by what's going on, like in a real way, and I don't mean the billionaires, I mean the working class and working poor that may have supported him, they might not vote Democrat, but they probably won't come out in the midterm at the very least. And there was on CNBC today, they talked about a new report of car repossessions, the highest number of repossessions in 2009 during the
Yep.
Great Recession. So people are missing payments, and they're saying the more of the people who were like subprime car loans are the ones that are defaulting at higher
Right. The
levels, and
prime
it's
loans are
going
not
up and up.
defaulting. The subprime ones and the ones on
Right,
used cars are the ones that are defaulting, and that's the
right.
Trump base by and large.
It's a lot of working class Americans base. It's
Yeah.
Trumpers and it's all different people. But the point is, we're having this bifurcated economy. I mean, more and more the haves are getting richer, more and more billionaires, and those who are struggling to make ends meet. It's the argument of Bernie, your buddy from long ago. It's still here. It resonates even more. And if this continues, one, I'm not sure how it's going to play out politically. I think you're going to have a lot more Zorons and Bernies and AOCs winning elections nationwide with a coalition that includes people on the right who are like, screw this. I'm struggling, and I'm seeing the rich in the Gilded Age get a $250 million ballroom so Donald Trump can have fun with his buddies. A $20 billion for Argentina when our farmers are suffering. Actually, $40 billion if you put the new thing they're adding to it. But $40 billion to help Argentina when Americans are suffering. This is outrageous. If a Democrat did that, Tom, if during a time of farmers are suffering, a Democratic president goes, nothing for the farmers, but are giving $20 billion to Argentina, how do you think that would play in the media?
Right. And then telling Americans to start buying Argentinian beef, right? I mean, it's like, how tone deaf do you get? And by the way, $20 billion is about what is necessary to put forward the Obamacare subsidies. The ACA subsidy, that's $20 billion. $35 billion, which is still less than the 40, he wants to give to Argentina, was the total budget of USAID, that was literally saving hundreds of millions of lives around the world and getting America all kinds of goodwill. And now you've got all these African nations that are very, very resource rich, turning to China and Russia instead and saying, "Hey, let's cut some deal. You want some rare earth minerals? We got rare earth. You want some oil? We got some oil." And it's like he is shooting himself in the foot. He's shooting us in the foot because he doesn't think these things through. He's impulsive like a 10-year-old. He operates on who will kiss his ass and flatter him rather than what's best for America and what's best for the people in this country, including his base. And even when he does things that he thinks are going to make his base happy, he does them in such a ham-handed way and with such great excess that it's hurting them. And I really think it's sinking in, Dean. I think that we're going to look back on this moment a year from now, as we go into the 2026 midterms, we're gonna look back on this moment and say, more or less, right around, Halloween was the turning point in America.
Do you think the turning point includes the huge No Kings protest?
I do. I think that that's a symptom of it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think Jimmy Kimmel getting reinstated was also one of the things we're going to look at. And I mentioned on the show, you don't know until the war is over the battles that were truly the turning point to your victory. And
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Kimmel, oddly enough, having a corporation first bend the knee to Trump, then stand up to Trump and go, we're going to go with the people over here. And we've talked about the 3.5% that you raised. That professor talks about in the book, was it Chenoweth? What's the name of the
Yeah.
professor?
Yeah. Erica Chenoweth.
Eric Chenoweth talks about, though, when you have these big nonviolent protests that show where the people are, it makes people in society, corporations, media leaders, artists, cultural leaders, say they're not going to bend the knee anymore, that they're going to
That's right.
side with the people.
Billy
That's
Graham
why it's so
said,
important.
courage is contagious. And
Mhm.
that's what's going on. Courage is contagious. I mean, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up to him, and not just on the Epstein files. Now she's coming out and saying, this economy's going to hell, and next November people are going to be voting their pocketbooks, and the Republicans are going to get wiped out. I mean, she's very good at licking her finger and checking out which way the wind is blowing. And I'm telling you, Dean, the wind has shifted. I don't think that most of the pundits have figured it out yet, and it may not be obvious for a little while. But and I don't know yet. We haven't seen any polling on this, but I have a feeling that destroying the White House, tearing down the White House to put up this monstrosity, this just so that he can have 1,000 people come pay him $1,000 a plate or $1 million a plate. I mean, in the last 4 days, he's had $3 million plate fundraisers, one in the White House, one down at Mar-a-Lago, and one someplace else. I don't know. I mean, it's just, at some point, the rest of America is going to say, what the hell?
Yep. And to your point about the economy, because I really believe there is more of a struggle out in the economy than a lot of times the corporate media is covering. Today,
Yeah,
Quinnipiac poll had Donald Trump's approval rating on the economy the lowest it's been in both terms, 38% approval.
yeah.
And so there's something going on. And I think that there's certainly the stock market. Anyone follows it knows it's overinflated.
Yeah.
It's teetering right now. Like it's on the edge of a
Oh,
real
this is
correction, but maybe even worse than a correction. That's
yeah.
I just saw something from like Morgan Stanley or someone on the
Oh,
prediction
there's
is
a
going to be
great
more
piece
than
in the
15%.
Financial Times about it, right? Today I was just reading it a couple of hours ago. And then on top of that, Virginia Giuffre's book came out today or yesterday. And that's reviving this all over again. And Mike Johnson's just desperately trying to cover it up. And now the word is starting to, reminders are starting to go out that Donald Trump owned the Miss Teen USA pageant at the same time that Jeffrey Epstein was looking for teenage girls. At least one girl has publicly said that she was recruited at Mar-a-Lago out of Miss Teen USA by Jeffrey Epstein. The question, I think the original question was, is Trump afraid of these files because he's in them, raping young girls? But now, people are starting to ask, is he in there because he was part of a trafficking ring? Was he the one who was he in, one of the ones who was supplying Jeffrey Epstein or, Ghislaine Maxwell with young girls, from his pageant? Because he had access to them. He used to brag about walking in and seeing them naked, 14-year-olds. I mean, he bragged about that publicly. So, there's just so much crap hitting this fan right now. It's starting to pile up, and I don't know, Dean. A
I,
month ago I was I'm not despairing, but I was really worried. And I'm feeling a whole lot better right now,
Tom
frankly.
feels better, folks. People were worried about you. They'd call in and say, I think Tom's getting pretty dark. By the way, I had a listener call in who said we should name the ballroom the Epstein Ballroom. That's the way
Oh
she
yeah,
said.
I've been pushing that all day.
Oh,
I
have
mean, it's
you?
the original
I
Dean.
thought it was, well, I think
No,
it's a
it's the
great idea.
Lincoln
We could
Project came
rename
up
it.
with
Oh, they did. But, all right. Well, a lot of people now collectively, the Jeffrey Epstein Ballroom, the Epstein Ballroom. I think that's great. Why do you think it's been so jarring for so many people to see the imagery of the East Wing? Like when I first heard, because I was off the last 2 days on a mini vacation, which turned into no vacation because I can't stop reading the news and tweeting about it and posting about it.
it.
But at
Welcome to
first
the
I heard
club.
they demolished a little bit of the White House, and I'm like, oh, all right, maybe for something. Then I saw the images. I'm like, wow, like it was a gut punch, like it was a visceral reaction to me, and that's what I'm getting from others too. It struck a nerve, and I'm not sure why. Is it the manifestation of what we're living through, and now it's just physically manifest? This guy's trying to tear down the Constitution, our way of life, America as we know it, and now that it's coming down, so he can build a Gilded Age ballroom, the actual East Wing, and he just confirmed, by the way, the whole East Wing's gone. They're getting rid of all of it, and he just
Yeah,
confirmed that. So
which was built by Franklin Roosevelt with WPA labor, and then upgraded by Harry Truman. Um, yeah, I
why do you
and
think
by
it
the way,
struck people? Why do you think it's really upset? I mentioned people calling in, like I saw Michelangelo before me, they were talking about it too. People are worked up about the White House. There's something
yeah, and
deeper
the
going on.
East Colonnade of the White House was designed by Thomas Jefferson.
Wow.
I mean, that's what leads to the East Wing. It's like this is I think the whole world. Remember. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. There was some crazy lady in one of the big European museums who went in and splashed paint on a Rembrandt or some famous painting. I forget which
Yeah,
one it was.
I think that's happened.
And everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's a masterpiece. You don't do that, you know." There's other ways to make a protest. There's like he's doing this. It's like taking a razor blade to a Rembrandt. He's destroying part of this country's heritage and a beautiful part of this country's heritage, an important part of this country's heritage, just so that he can have a larger crowd for his little buffoonery acts that he, with his fundraisers. It's obscene, Dean, and I
You
think the
think,
obscenity of it is what's getting people.
Tom, let me put this out here. And I want to say I might be breaking news here, Tom, so I'm glad you're here for this. Do you think there's a chance, Tom, that Trump had the crown stolen from the Louvre so he could wear it? So you think like we're gonna open up the new ballroom and there's all the jewels from the Louvre and he's like wearing that thing and he has a diamond. But like you stole that. His base would be fine. Like you know what? Biden stole stuff from China. It's always whataboutism. Fox News should just be renamed the whataboutism channel. Like,
Yeah.
but maybe he stole. Folks, if
Well,
it ends up that Trump is the one that stole the jewels and the little crown and he wears it, remember tonight, October 22nd, me and Tom came up with this.
there you go. Well, by speaking of Fox News, did you see that Don Jr. has brought Laura Ingraham into one of his companies? He's going to be pouring cash down her throat, and she's like primetime Fox News. I mean, it's like there's got to be a limit, Dean, somewhere. I mean, if Joe Biden if his son had been giving me money on the air or you money on the air, it would be a small nuclear explosion in the media all across the country. This is being dealt with like, well, I guess it's Wednesday,
Well, that's right. That's the reality. And look at where now we learn Warner Brothers is up for sale formally,
right?
and I
And Ellison
Larry
is looking at it,
Ellison,
and then
right? And
CNN.
he goes by it, and this DOJ will approve it, no problem. Even though they'll have massive conflict, and that you're going to have a huge strength between Paramount, which has CBS, and it's going to have CNN and the streaming platforms. It should never be approved. But in this White House, in this administration, all that matters is what Trump wants. I mean, we live in a time of a king on some level.
It's
So
downright crazy. It really is. And by the
I
way,
agree.
it's an old playbook. He's doing exactly what Putin did. Yeah, he's doing exactly what Orban did, you know.
Orban,
Um,
especially, right? Yep.
yeah, yeah. But get the oligarch, get all of the media in the country owned by oligarchs who owe you. And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. And man, if we go into the 2026 elections and CNN is starting to sound like Fox News and CBS is starting to sound like Fox News, and maybe I mean, NBC is talking about spinning off MSNBC, right?
Well, they
And
are.
MS,
That's formally next month. They're
yeah.
leaving November 15th. They're
So
gone.
MSNBC gets bought by Ellison or somebody like him, and
I know.
or some other right-wing billionaire, and pretty soon, what's left? I mean, what's left? Is it Free Speech TV,
Tom and Dean. It's
SiriusXM?
just
That's going
us.
to be it.
It's me, you, Michael,
Yeah,
Stephanie, just
there
Fugle
you
saying
go.
it's going to be our channel. We're going to look, it's in Orban's world. I saw that at some point in the beginning, I guess the oligarchs bought stuff and the lesser sort of the opposition channels were at the beginning, it seemed like, if I remember correctly, were allowed to do their thing. But in time, it became impossible.
Yep,
So in the beginning, you can still have certain levels of dissent to have the charade that it's still democratic and there's free speech, but not really powerful. And that's, you want them to come after us because it means we're important, but it's also bad for us. Like we're
that's
being
correct.
influential.
And that's
So
where
that,
we're at. I think we're in the early Orban stage.
tomorrow is 1 month since Adelita Gravala won her election, a special election by nearly 70%. And still Mike Johnson won't swear in. And a lot of people are connecting, which makes sense, that she can sign the Epstein petition and get to 218 votes and force that whole. There's a whole scheme involved when you get the discharge petition. It's not like, let's have a vote tomorrow. It goes back and forth stuff. But that's not my point.
Takes
Tom,
about
my
two.
point is, right, the rejection of this by Mike Johnson is a continuation of January 6th. It's a continuation of the Republicans' rejection of democracy. That's all that is to me. Like, this was the path before 2020 that certain experts had flagged and I'd written about earlier in 2020, way before the election in 2020. This is a continuing embrace of, if they don't like the results, they're not going to recognize it. And it's a wake-up call for anyone and a warning, I think, for 2026 after the
Yeah.
midterms.
Well, here's what I don't understand, Dean. Let's say that, she gets sworn in, the discharge petition is passed, you go through the jumping up and down that takes, I think it's 15 days. The vote happens for the full House. The full House votes, yes, release it. It now goes to the Senate, right? Let's say that even the Republicans in the Senate say, that a half a dozen defect and it passes the Senate. Then it goes to Trump's desk and he vetoes it. I mean, this is probably almost certainly just essentially a masturbatory exercise. I mean, this is not the thing that is going to do it, right? This is, it's
But
just
it's the
going to embarrass
messaging.
Trump. And I don't understand why Johnson is dragging this thing out. He's just making it worse for Trump.
You're right, because once the vote happens and everything, then that whole media moment's done. It'll be painful. Trump will say no. His base will be fine with it. Some will be troubled a little because they really want the Epstein files. And then it moves on. The longer it's in this limbo, the more we can get press. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries today in his press conference said point blank they will not swear in Gravala because Epstein. And he kept saying Epstein. And so, you say it enough, someone in the media's got to report on it again. It's an easy story for people to get as well. So you're right. And the longer he drags us out, I don't know what's going to happen. Once the shutdown's over, he's got to swear her in. But what if he didn't then? What if he goes, nope, I think it's an illegitimate election. And it
Well,
doesn't matter. It's not.
that's the big
We're going to
concern
have
for
it.
2026 is
Mm-hmm.
that he refuses to swear in Democrats if they win a majority. But I'm, help me brainstorm this, Dean. Is it that Mike Johnson is so terrified because he knows that those files reveal that, Trump was part of the child trafficking network, the sex trafficking network, or that he knows that there's videotape of Donald Trump, raping young girl? I mean, what is it that he knows that is causing him to act? Or is it that Trump knows this and Trump is leaning on Johnson, and Trump is not sophisticated enough, which is kind of surprising given his media savvy, to realize that, he could have had this done with a month ago and, just, let it go through the House, go through the Senate, veto the damn thing. And that's just the end of it. He's got, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel lying for him. I just don't get it.
I think you just hit on something very interesting. Donald Trump is media savvy. He understands the media better than any politician we've seen. Like, he's kind of remarkable. Which makes me go back to when the DOJ gave their memo in like July saying we went through it and you're getting zero documents. And that's what Trump wanted, zero. And he thought in his mind, this will burn out in a couple of days. We're going to take the hit. We'll say zero because if you give 100 and you hold back 5,000, it becomes drip, drip, drip like Hillary's emails. So he goes, let's just stonewall them. We're going to give him zero out of thousands of documents. And that's going to be how we're going to win. It didn't make sense because a smarter thing would have been given like 2,000. They go through it and make sure nothing's bad for Trump. Give up 2,000 and go, and some things are classified and confidential, blah, blah, whatever. That would have been the smarter. He didn't do the smarter thing. So when you're talking about he's media savvy, maybe this has him not thinking clearly because he's so concerned about what's in it. Because what we're saying objectively, it makes no sense. It
Which
makes much more
probably
sense.
means, yeah, which probably means that whatever's in those files is really bad. I
Yeah,
mean, like bring you down in ways that just you can never recover bad. And and like I said, I'm thinking that that might have to do with the Miss Teen USA pageant, but who knows?
I hope so. I mean, look, at the very least, in my heart, I've said my view is that the very least, it's going to prove what I think most of us know. Trump knew exactly what was going on. And he
Yeah.
didn't go to the authorities. He let his rich buddy, who was terrific, he called him, who liked younger women, but she meant girls. He let him do it, and that was life because they were guys. They were masters of the universe, Tom. They could do whatever they want. And now it looks really bad when there were so many children raped that he didn't call the police earlier because he could have saved the lives or the mental health of so many victims who have struggled horribly because of it. He could, so at the very least, that the worst is he was trafficking and having sex and raping children. That I don't know. Well, I'm open on that. So we'll see. All
Yeah.
right, Tom, I have to let you go because we have squeezing a lot of breaks. But nice seeing you. Subscribe to Tom's Substack, HartmanReport.com. It is a great read. And listen to his show every day on this very channel from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time or whatever you are. Nice. Stay safe in Portland. I know it's rough. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Louise and I are gonna, try to get out to the grocery store eventually, but
put
you
on your
just
frog
gotta duck,
outfit. And
duck the rockets.
she can dress like the chicken and you like the frog and go, cover
There
me,
you
honey. We're running for
go.
the food store. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot for having me on, Dean. It's